I also have Mheshimiwa Irungu Langata from Kiharu, Mheshimiwa Ken Okoth from Kibra, and Mheshimiwa Peter Opondo Kaluma, Member of Parliament for Homa Bay Town constituency. Before we took the commercial break, I offered to give you 30 seconds just to wrap up on the issue of Mbuvi Gunza living.
My concluding remarks, not even on Mbuvi, it's in the role of Parliament in the allocation of resources, especially the National Assembly, because you have a direct role in the budget making process. And I want to say that because we are the same people who approve the monies we give to Mumias, the money we want to pump to Uchumi, it passes through Parliament.
So Parliament
we must play our role and refuse the sinking of more billions. Personally, we must refuse the sinking of more billions when it does not add value. The issue of KQ, we must hold any pumping of more money because it is not adding value. The issue of Uchumi, I don't know why we need to be shopkeepers as a government. Really, I don't know why we need to be shopkeepers. Let us the market forces deal with it, exit or sell the shares of the government, because I don't see what value we want to hold on in Uchumi really and sink more money. So I think even as we deal with the corruption cartels, and more importantly, the people who have been mentioned, it's already at least started with Chiano. We must see, if you leave an institution and it crumbles, there must be a period that you are not allowed to hold any other public office.
Thank God I'm talking to legislators.
We must say
this is your role.
We must say it. We have said it even before, even as we oversight the counties. We must be very clear that if you leave an institution, within 2 years it collapses, my friend, you do not hold public office.
Point made. Mheshimiwa Kaluma, I want us to move on, but I'm happy that you're saying this as legislators and Kenyans are watching. So we take the words more into action. I want us to move on.
No, Charles,
we can't finish this, Mheshimiwa.
Just 20 seconds.
Starting now.
Charles, Kenya Airways is in the manacles of cartels, both local and international. What we are getting in exchange for what the monies we pumped into Kenya Airways is nothing. And I would say that knowing who are the owners of those planes, and those are the issues, let us either sell the airline to them or whoever wants to buy it. If we have some sentimental attachment about the flags of Kenya flying on air, as Ken says, let us have a few fleet. At 10 billion, we can have a few of them, and let us run them for those sentimental attachment.
And really, use the money to educate children,
longer,
like you say.
Yes, it
free
is no longer profitable. Let us fund free secondary education. We have rated it. It would not cost even 40 billion in a year. They're very small monies, because I see our entire CDF allocation is about 30 billion. But we are able to educate so many, so we can easily gauge with our education loans board and these fundings. We need barely 50 billion to ensure that all our Kenyan children have free secondary education.
Point made.
And then we invest in more.
Point made. On page 2 of the Daily Nation today, quite an interesting story. Interesting in the sense that it's touchy and very sensitive. GSU officers are now accused of brutality in search of guns. Apparently on Tuesday night, in the wee hours of the morning, 7 G3 rifles and 180 bullets were stolen when unknown people raided Buka Police Post in Mumias, and they actually injured one of the officers using an axe. Now the GSU have mounted a crackdown to try and recover this ammunition, and apparently in so doing they are violating, according to this story, on the rights of Kenyans. People are getting beaten, women are getting molested, and such like things. I want to give Senator Martha Wangari the opportunity to comment on this.
You know, we rebranded, I would say, the police force to Read Police Service. Yesterday, we visited the Inspector General's office with my colleague senators, members of the Public Accounts Committee. We were kept outside that gate for 30 minutes when it was still locked.
At Vigilance House?
Yes, at Jogo House.
At Jogo House, rather.
For 30 minutes, waiting for it to be opened. And we were asking, we are legislators, we are 5 legislators coming to the IG's office, and we were not demonstrating, we were just walking to the office. If we had a problem accessing that office, what of the common man? And I think this is something, the rebranding of this force does not lie in the name. It lies on how we deal with things, that it has to be a service. The issue of these guns, of course, is an issue touching on national security. We will need to recover these guns, because they fall to the wrong hands, they will still be used against us as a citizen.
And we will still make noise.
And we will still make noise. But most importantly, the recovery must not translate to sexual harassment. I saw a video of a woman who was being molested thoroughly,
which has gone
in
viral,
which is very sad. IPOA and human rights must really take the action against the specific officer because they are known. And the rebranding of service, we must tell the Inspector General, is not in the name. It is on how we handle the citizenry. Because everyone has a right. You cannot come to my house because you're looking for a gun, take my clothes off. And someone even had a scar from an operation. You know, and they're telling them, show me the scar. I mean, we really must change as a nation. And I think IPOA, this is a case that should be taken very seriously. And the culprits brought to book.
Mheshimiwa Kenokot, quite emotive an issue.
You know, the use of torture and cruel methods never works. Even sometimes people use the excuse of terrorism and national security and we must violate human rights to promote security. It doesn't work. People who are tortured, people who are harassed will tell you anything and it won't succeed. The police have been harassing and violating the rights of people in Mumias for the last 3 days in search of 7 guns. Have they found them? They have turned the citizenship against them by their actions in the follow-up. You have to work smart. I think you have to use other techniques, you know, of intelligence, insiders to infiltrate the possible criminals. Our intelligence service spends more time, unfortunately, I must say this, overhearing the conversations of opposition members than listening to who are the criminal groups in Mumias. The criminal groups in Mumias, I'm pretty sure you can very easily track. Maybe some of them are even linked to some of those politicians in the opposition or on the government side. Those would be the only people with the capacity and guts to say, let's go raid a police force and think they can get
do the kind of
harassing, you know, damaging the property of somebody like that. Has that brought back the guns? No, it hasn't helped. So I would like to say we link it back to, and I think it is a high time now for members of the National Assembly, the Justice Committee especially, to help us to pass the anti-torture, the prevention of torture bill. This is a bill that I have moved. It was there in the last parliament, it never passed, and I've moved it now, and it is sitting in front of the Justice Committee. They have refused to publish it. Publish the Prevention of Torture Act, which will criminally list clearly the offense of torture involves state officers doing all these things they've been doing, beating up people who are not suspects, just randomly, all these things, torture, all this detention.
They assume everybody is guilty.
Then we will have a law. Then we will have a law that actually, because now all these people who have been tortured in Mumias don't have a law that protects them. Yet our constitution in 3 instances prohibits torture, and freedom from torture is clearly stated in our constitution. So I think it's a high time that the National Assembly, the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee that Honorable Kangata and Honorable Kaluma sit on, either you take it as a party bill from Jubilee or a party bill from COD, please help me to get that bill passed, because it's due like yesterday. This is a bill that will protect people against police misbehavior and police misconduct.
Mheshimiwa Irungu Kangata, in view of these issues of torture and that bill alluded to by Kenokot, why is it still there?
Well, first and foremost, I want to disagree with the submission of these 2 people. I don't belong to the school of thought. Yes, I don't belong to the school of thought of bashing police, because this idea of bashing police marks the problems which the victims of crime tend to suffer in the hands of goons and criminals. I belong to the school of thought that the police should be hard on crime. I say that, yes, I say that.
But they can't commit torture.
I want
they
them
can't
to be
violate,
very hard.
But they cannot violate.
I'm sure at some point,
at some point, putting a rifle in a woman's private part is being hard on crime as he thinks it, but it hasn't given back the weapon.
Let's give him a chance to substantiate this hard on crime as opposed to
does it involve putting a rifle in a woman's private part?
No.
How is that police enforcement?
Okay, Ken.
In 2007 in my county, I was a young person and I was a councillor. There was a sect that was quite very bad in terms of terrorizing the common people there. And the police came up with something they were calling some squad, which was going after members of that sect. It was a brutal campaign. Young people were being beaten up. Young people were being tortured. And people, by the way, immigrated from my county. And then there was something where a certain guy a certain person was vying for a political seat. He was campaigning on the platform that once you elect me as your member of parliament, I am going to expose police brutality. That guy lost, and I supported his losing, because people said, oh, you want to take us back to the era where we were being beaten up by this sect. There's no other way of police
What was
fighting
this
against.
sect called?
No, I'm not.
Okay, let's not
talking about
the police saying the way the police
Okay, Ken, let's give him a chance. Tell me, Mheshimiwa Irungu, tell me.
No, there was
Just a
human
minute.
rights, yes.
Just a minute. Senator
The
Martha
fact is
Wangari
called
alluded to the fact that there are individuals behind every group. She actually said we transformed the name, but these individuals are known. They should be handled.
Let me tell you what let me give you practical problems that the police were facing. You would arrest a person who was belonging to this sect, you take him to the court. When that person goes to court, you do not get a witness who's going to testify against that
For
person.
fear.
Of course. So therefore, what do? The problem was still subsisting in the community.
So how do you
So
suggest
listen. So the police decided to do what we call scorched earth policy to tackle this gang. It worked. It worked. I can tell you, as a matter of fact, it worked. So to me, I belong to the school of thought of the president of Philippines called Brutality. These criminals who go selling drugs, who go killing people with guns, shoot them.
But
one thing is clear. No, one thing is clear. One thing is clear. In Mumias, they are dealing with the public. You are saying deal with criminals.
And it is not.
I agree. Listen.
No.
So is that really a criminal?
Listened too long.
Mheshimiwa, are you saying that lady is a criminal?
No. No, I do not support torture. I do not support violation of human rights.
But you support Scotch.
I support the police to go knocking each and every door. And then the person doesn't open a door, break the door. Ask where's the gun. But don't rape a woman, no.
Charles.
Don't beat up a woman, no. But when you see a person running away, go after him, get him. It has worked. It has worked.
Mheshimiwa Kaluma.
Charles, before the 2010 constitution, if you had a bad boy in the village, like a bang smoker or just a rough boy in the village, you always had people saying he should join the police.
Actually, people say, this son of mine only managed a D. Please get him a job at the police.
Yes, if not D, you just have, some brutal, cruel, mad boy in the village. They say this one can be a police officer, or this one can be in the forces. And that is why when we start to do the constitution, we made a clear division of roles, and we rebranded, the units. We said we will have Kenya Defence Force, because they are dealing with our, enemies, mainly external. You are going there to bring them down. There is no reasoning. And that is essentially why you get the grading of army, officers is far, far lower than even the police officer. Then we said we are moving from Kenya Police Force to National Police Service. And then we told the police, you're going to deal with civilian. You will deal with civilian in terms of identifying the bad ones, separating them from good ones, ensuring there is cohesion within our society internally. And then we told the police, you'll be independent. And to safeguard your independence, you'll never be, and you shall not be under the president. Instead, you shall be under the National Police Service Commission. And we even created the Independent Police Oversight Authority to check these things. Unfortunately, we did rebranding, we made changes to the law. I don't know whether it is civic education we needed to undertake in the police service itself or where, but there is a problem. We were just, the other day dealing with the matter for Lempurkel. And we came out, including members of the opposition, that really, as leaders, you have to do the best within the meaning of Chapter 6 of the Constitution.
Integrity.
You cannot engage in those things that are unethical, because then it reflects and of course goes downwards to our society. But look at what happened. Lempurkel is called to the police unit at Parliament there. And I go there as a member of Parliament and a lawyer for him. Not to say he's innocent, but to say let us process him if there are issues according to the law. I tell the OCS, this is a member of Parliament, he's come on his own volition. Can you grant him bail? And it is constitutional, it is straight there. The police officer will grant you bail. The guy says, I have instructions from above not to grant bail. And I'm like, where did you take the independence we gave you? And I'm being told as a member of Parliament.
And as a lawyer.
We went to court the day before yesterday. And we get Lempurkel processed for cash bail. We were very obedient to the process. As we are leaving, he's arrested again. And I'm asking the officers arresting him, where are you taking him? Not your business. What offense is he to be charged with now? Not your business.
At that point, you identified yourself as his
Yes, yes. In fact, we were in court with the officers, arresting him because they were there. And they're telling you they'll not disclose, the offense. And Kangata will tell you the first right of a person being arrested or rearrested is that you tell him, we are taking your liberty for this reason. And I'm being told this as a leader, as a lawmaker, and as a lawyer.
No,
and we were then deceived. Let me finish.
No, just go on.
We were then deceived that he's being taken to, Mazingira. I drive as a lawyer to go and see what is happening there. On the way, he's not at Mazingira. Nobody is telling me where he is. I hear he's at Rumuruti. I hear he's at Nanyuki. In the long run, you have, this leader being an accused person in that context, now being in court without his chosen lawyer, against the Constitution. What do I want to say? That really, our police officers need to internalize the Constitution and need to get the independence. Interferences with the independence of the police officers continue. You remember when we were demonstrating for electoral reforms in the day, you get politicians sitting somewhere and saying we have enough tear gas to tear gas court members.
But politicians talk, you people talk.
Where did the CS or even just MPs get the guy to direct telling us they have tear gas, and then you get the police doing it? We must punish those police officers who subject Kenyans to this thing. Let us be honest, Kangata. Let me beg you for once. When ammunition or firearms are stolen at a police officer, it is foolhardy to imagine they'll be stolen to be kept around the police station there. First, it does not work that way. Which criminal will steal from citizen and keep, the stolen property around citizen here? It is foolhardy to imagine that our GSU is the GSU I grew under, not the one we recreated under the new constitution, where we used to, in fact, in our place, we used to call them Fanya Fujo One. You just send people and they're beating people. You cannot, Kangata, justify extrajudicial killings.
Then tell
you cannot justify rape. You cannot justify destruction of property. When we have National Intelligence Service, we are paying very heavily. And say it on TV as a lawyer and a member of Justice.
Tell us about this proposed bill by Ken Okoth.
Yes, the bill I was told just came to our committee 2 weeks ago. I want to assure you, brother, that the best, departmental committee of Parliament is Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, and I'm happy you have flagged it. We are going to pursue it. I know it is pre-publication. We cannot stop a private member as a committee from moving on. In fact, being pre-publication, you can begin the processes within Parliament of securing its publication. We will assist. You cannot stop.
Thank you. We'll be taking another commercial break. You have been, Mheshimiwa Kangata has been mentioned.
I need to say something to that, because there is no blanket condemnation of the police. And let me tell you, Charles, the reason I say that, I'm born in that county that he's speaking about. I know very well how that sector worked. But one thing the police did, they used a lot of intelligence. You will not do whatever we are seeing in Mumias. And the people who suffer when there are these torturous actions is women and children. In fact, one person, that woman who was on that viral video,
she's not Mungiki.
She's actually saying, the child was actually telling the police officer, please leave my mom alone. The people who suffer most in this war and in this torture are women and children. Because we must put this in context. We are not saying the whole police service is bad, but there are few elements in this police service that still need to be dealt with. That is why we have IPOA, that is why we have Human Rights Commission to deal with these ones. And they're individuals. They are known.
No, we should abolish those IPOA things, in my own opinion.
Why?
Because you are fettering the police working. You're holding back the police back. Look here. Sabot Land Defense Force was an illegal sect in Western Kenya that was terrorizing Kenyans. The police, in fact the military went there. It condoned that region. It told the human rights guy, get away. It told press people, get away. We are going to deal with this thing.
The military.
Within 1 month,
the military. The military. Not the police. We are talking about the police.
I want to argue the methods which at times government must use to get what we call the public good may at times violate the so-called human rights, but they get the good results. Look here, America is the guarantor of human rights in the whole world.
If this was happening,
look at what it is doing
Yes, it happened.
This was happening in Kiharu.
It happened in Kiharu. It happened in Kiharu. It happened in Kiharu. It happened in Kiharu. We used to come. We used to run away.
Charles, can you stop this debate? No, I don't want to stop it because it's making a very sensitive point.
Ken. In my constituency,
and he's pushing me physically from speaking.
Okay,
Every
Ken.
time I want to speak, he shoves me down.
I'll give you 1 minute. I need us to wind up on this. I need us to wind up on this, Ken.
Stop me from.
Yeah, Ken.
When you want to fight known terror groups and strategic issues, for instance, he doesn't want to say the sect is Mungiki. I don't know why, but that was Mungiki he's talking about. When you want to fight about land defense forces, when you want to fight Al-Shabaab, you need intelligence and you need the full force of the law and, where necessary, the monopoly of government force, including the right to kill people who resist. That is true. But I am asking you, the woman in Mumias, who the police are shoving a rifle in her private parts. She's not Al-Shabaab, she's not Mungiki, she's not about Lidani. On what ground can you justify a policeman raping her? When you're using your penis as a policeman to rape an innocent Kenyan woman.
Your language,
when you're raping a woman, you're raping her with
He's an American.
No, it's okay, but you remember this is a family show. I mean, it's morning and kids are watching. I'm sure we want to provide.
They all have that body parts, boys and girls, so let me say
it's not African to keep flaunting the name around. Go on.
Is it African to kill people extrajudicially?
And that's
you're
why
bothered about the
it.
penis, but you're not bothered about the gun.
We'll take a commercial break. We'll take a commercial break. We'll come back right after this.
Let us talk about human rights.
We'll come back right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the news review. I have a very, 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 very heated panel here. Shortly.
Kakamega County, one that has left residents a traumatized lot.
Lakini mnauliza kama ndio mwenye kuku, kama ni kuku iko hivi na mwenye kuku ako namna gani? Hiyo style yenye wamekujamo ni mbaya sana. Wamepiga jamaa bodaboda wengi, mapikipiki zimesanywa zimepelekwa Mumia station.
The magnitude of the overnight operation visible from the wreck it left on its wake. Health facilities teeming with residents with tales of anguish.
Najua Kenya ulifanya. Mimi nikamwambia sijui Kenya nilifanya. Wapi bunduki yenye ulichukua? Nikamwambia mimi sijachukua kwa bunduki. Akaniweka fimbo moja kwa kichwa. Ya fimbo ya pili nikazuia na mkono. Ikanidunga hapa, ikadunga na hapa hivi.
Wakaanza kunisamba makofi, wakanichapa makofi. Watoa bunduki, nikamwambia mimi sina bunduki, mimi hata sijajua story ya bunduki. Nilikuwa nimeenda matanga ndio nimerudi.
Walikuwa wanachukua rungu, wanataka kuniingiza paka huku na finya mguu pamoja. Hasa hii hasira yote nilifanya nikapigwa sana.
Mtu wangu kusema ati wacha msipige mama. Wakashika mtu wangu akamtupa wa kiti na mmoja akamkanyaga hapa. Mwingine akainua rungu ataka kumpiga, nikamwambia tafadhali piga tu mimi lakini usipige mtoto wangu.
Kumpata wakamwambia wapi mama yako. Huyo msichana akamwambia mama yangu alikufa na baba. Wakamfunua nguo. Ama tukurep saizi. Msichana akaambia hapana.
There was confirmed by medical practitioners
who were brought in this morning with soft tissue injuries. But there was one who was very serious by the name Gladys Obare. She's 40 years old. That lady was assaulted so much.
But Area County Commissioner disputed claims of excessive use of force.
We have not received any complaint from in the police stations and all that. And let me also say this, police officers, of course, are always guided.
Residents fear that the fall of darkness will unleash another round of misery in the hands of the police. So far, the 7 G3 rifles and 180 rounds of ammunition have not yet been recovered as the operation continues.
Even as residents cry foul over the operation, observers have it that it will remain an exercise in futility if at all the scope of the operation will not be widened beyond Kakamega County. Hassan Mugambi, Citizen TV.
Hassan Mugambi with a piece enlightening us more on this rather very sad and emotive story. On Tuesday, in the wee hours of the morning, unknown people raided Buka police post and went away with the G3 rifles, 7 of them, and 180 bullets, over and above injuring a police officer using an axe. I'm asking my panelists here, Mheshimiwa Peter Kaluma, Mheshimiwa Martha Wangari, Mheshimiwa Ken Okoth, and Mheshimiwa Irungu Kangata. Really, what should happen? And at this point, I want to apologize to our viewers. Mheshimiwa Ken Okoth,
use the word that I'm not supposed to use on a family show. Fine. Exactly. I apologize for using that word.
Thank you.
Can I tell you something important, though?
Tell me something.
The human rights of Kenyans are so important than this political correctness. The fact of the matter is, and let's look at suggestions, how else could have police moved forward on this Buka issue? You go use your intelligence networks. You listen in on the conversations of potential groups that you know. You have where corruption affects us, for instance, on the Anglo-leasing scandals. If you had those ballistic tracking laboratories and forensics units that you need, you track and see, have these guns been used anywhere? Have those bullets been traced anywhere? Then you eventually catch the people. It's very simple. There is a market for guns even in Nairobi. I come from Kibra. We know young people are trading in guns and have them. You go to Korogosho, you know who's selling what guns. So when you come to that level, you say, even now, you send in a decoy to say, I'm offering to buy a gun at a certain price. You'll recover one of the weapons and get a trace without terrorizing a whole community. So I think when we're fighting Al-Shabaab, it's about Land Defense Force, Mungiki, and organized big groups. It's different than when you're innocently trivializing and attacking people. Look at that picture, a building has been burnt, a door has been knocked down. Look at the testimonies of people who are affected. That is more traumatizing on this family show to the people watching and the children listening and fearing police than the word I say.
So we don't want to add
have to answer on cases in biology.
Yes. You had apologized, Mheshimiwa, yeah?
Yes,
so
but I'm just letting you know.
Mheshimiwa Wangari, before we wind up.
Yeah, you know, yesterday we had an issue of the police service in terms of their medical cover and insurance in the Senate. And we were discussing the change from the withdrawal of NHIF and putting of an AAR cover. In fact, it was requested as a statement. That does not mean we do not or are not sensitive to the welfare of the people in uniform. That we must separate, because I also have relatives who are in the force or in the police service, very many, and I would want them to have a good life. But we also must not take out frustrations in our jobs to innocent Kenyans. We must separate that, because the people who suffer most are the children, are the women. You've seen it, and they receive the brunt of it. And it cannot be a blanket that we shoot to kill now because guns have been stolen. We have NIS, we have information that we can use to arrest anyone in this country, and we pump a lot of money to that every year in the budgetary allocations. Let us use the resources we have. Let us not remove our own stress, or rather exert our own stress with people who are innocent in this fight. These guns must be found, one way or another.
Well said,
but
well put.
They must not terrorize women, they must not terrorize young children, and the trauma is irreversible. Some of these things, when you're seeing someone being attacked with a rungu, and she's saying very clearly they put it in her private parts, that we cannot condone, and we cannot say we do away with IPOA. There is a reason we have IPOA. It was a whole process of constitutional making and changing of this force that we are dealing with.
Finally, finally on this issue,
you know, Charles, we have a National Intelligence Service to, you know, using intelligence, identify the bad citizens and deal with them away from, you know, good citizens. You cannot have a situation where if you lose, you know, sensitive, you know, artifacts like firearms, then you surround the entire area and you conclude everybody is guilty of the theft. It confirms what we are seeing, of course, that our intelligence service is, of course, dysfunctional. And I think the head of intelligence must direct our intelligence into identifying criminals or bad people amongst us than eavesdropping in what Kaluma is telling his wife or his party leader and those other things. That is number one. Number two, I wanted to state that when you wreck a child's sense of security, and Kangata, let me tell you, to a child, whoever their parent is, that is the strongest person. When you beat the parent of a child as the child watches, when you are threatening to rape or assault the parent of a child, you've wrecked, you know, that child's, you know, sense of security, sense of morality completely. It is deeply psychologically traumatizing. So let us avoid a situation where we do some things which may have, you know, permanent, you know, impact on children and young people who are taking, you know, over from us. But lastly, our systems for disciplining police, members of the police service must work. And of course, we have the internal processes. As Parliament, we've given a lot of money to the police. I don't know whether they get them or what happens. But we want IPOA and these other institutions to work. You know, Charles, you remember a short while ago, when we were demonstrating for electoral reforms, you remember the brutal manner in which some young man was kicked outside Anniversary Towers there. You know, Kenyans are not questioning what happened to those police officers after that. We must have a system where when a police officer goes beyond the call of duty, to to abrogate or violate the rights of people, then they're dealt with family. Lastly, Kangata, let me say that our Bill of Rights is being praised, worldwide, and you know it from South Africa. We just had, members of parliament from Cote d'Ivoire the other day in our parliament seeking to know what is in our constitutional document in terms of human rights, because they have heard of it. They are making their own.
So it should go beyond the word.
Let us not have what we call Bill of Rights simply because we want to decorate that constitution.
Fair enough.
Let us implement.
Fair enough. Well put,
Mheshimiwa,
on that very sensitive issue. And now I want us to move on very quickly. We have a few minutes left. The president has shut the door on quick degrees for leaders. The other day, I think the Ministry of Education through the CS, Mheshimiwa Matiang'i, said that they are not going to allow the qualification of fake papers, especially for leaders, now that we are headed towards an electioneering period. And this thing transcends leadership. It actually goes, you see what's happening with the doctors, you see what happened with Waiganje, the police. It happens all over.
I have a dissertation, which is a real one, but on a serious note.
And you can tell us the title, right?
What do I say? An educated Jalio working on my second master.